All right, so we've got this episode from Success Mindset titled How to Stay Motivated Secrets from High Achievers. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it looked like it'll be a good one.
Definitely. And I'm always looking for tips and tricks to kind of, boost my own motivation. So I'm excited to see what they have to say.
Me too. It's always fascinating to see how high achievers approach this because, they're not superhuman. They face the same struggles as everyone else.
Right, exactly. So, what's your take on the episode's premise that high achievers share these common strategies for staying motivated?
Well, I think it's more about how they apply those strategies. It's not like they have some secret formula, but they've figured out what works for them, and they're really intentional about it.
Okay, so it's more about mindset and approach than any specific
I
tactic.
think so.
Mm.
And that's something we can all learn from, regardless of our goals or what we're trying to achieve.
For sure. So, the first secret they highlight is the importance of setting clear and specific goals. I know that might sound obvious, but they really emphasize the why behind it.
Yeah, that's crucial. It's like imagine you're trying to navigate through a dense forest. Without a map or compass, you'd be wandering aimlessly, right?
Totally. You'd be expending a lot of energy, but never really getting anywhere.
Exactly.
Right.
Clear goals act as that map, providing direction and preventing wasted effort. They help you stay focused and avoid getting sidetracked.
That's a great analogy. I know I've definitely been guilty of starting projects with only a vague idea of what I wanted to achieve. No wonder I felt lost and unmotivated sometimes.
It happens, and it's not just about setting goals. It's also about breaking them down into smaller, more manageable milestones.
So instead of write a book, it becomes write one chapter per week, or even write 500 words every day.
Exactly. Each completed step becomes a mini victory, providing a sense of accomplishment that fuels motivation. It's the psychology of those small wins that really adds up over time.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I can already see how that applies to a few things I'm working on. But here's where it gets interesting. The episode actually argues that discipline is more important than motivation for achieving goals. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it might seem counterintuitive at first, but think about it this way. Motivation can be fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline, on the other hand, is the engine that keeps you moving forward, even on those days when motivation is nowhere to be found.
So it's less about waiting for inspiration to strike and more about consistently showing up even when we don't feel like it.
Precisely. The podcast uses the analogy of motivation being the spark that ignites the fire, but discipline is the fuel that keeps it burning. High achievers don't rely on feeling motivated. They build habits and routines that keep them moving towards their goals day after day.
I'm starting to see the difference. It's like training for a marathon. Some days you'll feel energized and excited to run, but other days you'll need to rely on that ingrained discipline to get out the door.
Exactly. It's about creating that consistency and showing up even when it's tough.
So, speaking of marathons, have you ever noticed how many high achievers always seem to have a really clear why driving them?
Absolutely. And that's actually the third secret they highlight in the episode, finding your why. It's about connecting to a deeper purpose behind your goals, something that truly resonates with you on an emotional level.
They give some really powerful examples, like starting a business isn't just about making money. It might be about achieving financial freedom, creating a legacy, or making a positive impact on the community. Those are whys that can really fuel you through the tough times, right?
For sure. When you have a strong why, it becomes an internal source of motivation that helps you push through challenges and setbacks. It's like having a compass that always points you in the right direction, even when the path ahead is unclear.
So, for our listener out there, think about a goal you're working towards right now. What's your why behind it? Why is this important to you? Tap into those deeper motivations.
That's a powerful question to consider. And it leads perfectly into the next secret the episode reveals: the importance of surrounding yourself with positive influences.
Oh, yeah, this one really resonated with me. I've always been aware of how my environment can affect my mood and productivity, but they took it a step further, emphasizing the impact our social circles have on our motivation levels.
Right. We've all heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Yeah.
It turns out there's some truth to that. High achievers are very intentional about who they allow into their inner circle, making sure they're surrounded by people who inspire them, support them, and challenge them to grow.
So it's about looking at your network and asking yourself, are these people lifting me up or dragging me down? Are they encouraging me to pursue my goals or subtly undermining my efforts?
Exactly. It's about being honest with yourself and making conscious choices about who you spend your time with. And it's not just about cutting out negative people, it's also about actively seeking out positive influences. That could be mentors, supportive friends, or even online communities where people share your interests and goals.
I like how they even mentioned following inspiring individuals on social media can be part of this. It's about being mindful of who you're allowing into your mental space, even online.
Definitely.
It seems like many of these secrets are interconnected, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Building a supportive network can provide that extra boost of motivation and accountability, especially when things get challenging. And speaking of powerful tools, the next secret they discuss is one I was initially skeptical about: visualization.
Oh, me too. I always thought it was a bit woo-woo, but the episode actually delves into the science behind it, which I found really fascinating.
It turns out our brains can struggle to distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real-life experiences. So when we repeatedly visualize ourselves achieving our goals, feeling the emotions of success, we're essentially programming our minds to believe it's possible.
Wow. So it's like creating a mental blueprint for success, complete with sights, sounds, and feelings. And the more we replay that mental movie, the more real and achievable our goals become.
Precisely. And the podcast even gives specific instructions on how to practice visualization effectively. They suggest spending a few minutes each day picturing yourself accomplishing your goal, experiencing the emotions as if it's already happened.
So it's not just about daydreaming, it's about engaging all of your senses and really immersing yourself in that vision of success. I have to admit, the more I learn about visualization, the more I'm convinced of its power. But are you ready for a potentially tough one? The next secret is all about embracing failure as part of growth.
Oh yeah, this is a big one. And it's where we see a real difference between high achievers and everyone else. While most people view failure as a setback, high achievers see it as valuable feedback. It's not a dead end, it's a detour that can lead to a better path.
It's about shifting our mindset from I failed to I learned. The episode emphasizes that setbacks are inevitable on the road to success, but it's how we respond to those setbacks that truly matters.
High achievers don't let failure define them. Instead, they analyze it, extract the lessons learned, and use that knowledge to adjust their course and keep moving forward. It's like they're constantly iterating and improving based on their experiences.
That reminds me of that famous Thomas Edison quote: I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. He turned his failures into stepping stones on the path to inventing the light bulb.
Exactly. That's the mindset.
So think about it. What's a recent setback you've encountered? Can you reframe it as an opportunity for growth? What did you learn from it?
That's a great question to ponder.
Definitely. And that leads us perfectly into the final secret the episode reveals: celebrating small wins. It might seem like a minor detail, but plays a crucial role in maintaining motivation over the long haul.
Oh, absolutely. It's like those mini rewards that keep us engaged and excited on the journey. High achievers are masters at recognizing and celebrating those incremental wins along the way.
Think of it this way. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. If you only focus on the summit, the journey can feel long and daunting. But if you take the time to appreciate the views, enjoy the challenges, and celebrate reaching each base camp, the climb becomes much more enjoyable and sustainable.
What a great way to put it.
So instead of just waiting for that big end goal, it's about finding joy and satisfaction in the process itself. It's about celebrating those small victories that keep us motivated and moving forward. What's a small win you can celebrate today? Maybe it's completing a task, learning something new, or simply making a healthy choice. Acknowledge those achievements no matter how small they may seem.
It's so easy to overlook those small wins, but they really do make a difference. It's about shifting our focus from what we haven't accomplished to what we have.
Right. It's all about perspective. All right. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've explored these 7 powerful strategies used by high achievers: setting clear goals, embracing discipline, finding your why, surrounding yourself with positive influences, harnessing the power of visualization, reframing failure as feedback, and celebrating small wins.
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's all really valuable stuff.
Mhm.
And while these might seem like individual concepts, they're all interconnected, working together to create a framework for sustained motivation and success.
Definitely.
But we're just getting started. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into these secrets, exploring the nuances and potential challenges of putting them into practice in our own lives.
Welcome back. It's really interesting to think about these secrets, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because, they sound pretty straightforward on the surface, but
Yeah,
putting them into practice
right.
in our, crazy busy lives,
Yeah, it
that's
is.
that's the real challenge, I think.
For sure. And for me, I think one of the biggest hurdles is is often just like getting started.
Oh, yeah?
We talked about setting these clear goals,
Uh-huh.
but even figuring out what those goals should be
Right.
can sometimes feel so overwhelming.
I totally agree with that. I think sometimes we get so focused on the how,
Mm-hmm.
how we're going to achieve something,
Yeah.
that we forget to take a step back and
Mm.
really think about the why.
Yeah.
What are those values
Right.
that are driving those goals?
Mm-hmm.
Are they aligned with what really matters to you?
Right. Like, why are you even doing this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get stuck in that
Yeah.
place of like, I should be setting goals,
Right.
but I have no idea where to start.
Right. Exactly. So, like, what advice do you have for someone who's feeling
Yeah, I think one simple question to ask is,
Yeah.
what would your ideal day look like?
okay?
And not even in terms of like,
Not in terms of tasks, but like,
specific tasks,
yeah.
but more in terms of like, how do you want to feel?
Right. So instead of like jumping straight to, I need to launch a business,
Right.
it's like, I want to feel more autonomy and purpose in my work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want to feel creative? Do you want to feel
Yeah.
connected to others? Do you want to feel like you're contributing to something meaningful?
I think once you have that clarity,
Right.
it's like, then the goals, like,
Then they flow naturally.
yeah, they kind of flow
It's a
naturally.
lot easier
Yeah.
to connect those dots.
For sure.
And remember, like, goals can evolve,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
It's not about like setting them in stone.
Mm-hmm.
It's about using them as like guideposts on your journey.
Yeah, that takes a lot of pressure off, I think.
Right.
It's not about getting it right from the get-go,
Exactly.
but about being flexible and adaptable as you go through that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which, brings us back to discipline versus motivation. I think that's really the key, is building those habits and routines.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
But I know from personal experience that,
Yeah.
willpower alone doesn't always cut it.
Oh, tell me about it. There are definitely days when
Yeah.
even like the smallest tasks just feel impossible.
So, for sure. And I think one thing that's been really helpful for me is to focus on what I call the minimum baseline.
Okay.
So instead of aiming for perfection,
Yeah.
what's the absolute bare minimum
Okay.
you can commit to doing, even on your worst day?
So like if your goal is to write every day,
Yeah.
instead of aiming for 1,000 words, maybe it's just 100 words.
Right. Or even just like opening the document
Right.
and free writing for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really about,
Just showing up.
just showing up,
Yeah.
building that consistency.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's something to be said for, like almost tricking your brain a little bit.
Right.
Sometimes just taking that small action creates enough momentum to keep going.
Yeah, I actually have a really good example of that.
Okay.
I finally started exercising regularly,
Good for you.
but I told myself that I would just put on my workout clothes,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it.
Okay.
If I didn't work out, I didn't work out.
Right.
But just getting dressed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And most of the time, once I was dressed, I was
Yeah.
like, well, I might as well do something,
that's a great example.
And
And don't underestimate the power of environment either.
right.
We talked about surrounding ourselves with positive influences.
Yeah.
But even our physical surroundings
Mm-hmm.
can play a huge role.
You mean like having a dedicated workspace and,
Exactly.
minimizing distractions?
Think about it this way. Like, are you more likely to feel
Yeah.
motivated and focused
Yeah.
in a cluttered, chaotic space,
Uh-huh.
or in like a clean, organized environment that inspires you?
Definitely the second one. For me,
Right.
clutter just creates mental clutter.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like my brain cannot relax and focus.
Totally. It's about being mindful of those
Yeah.
subtle cues our environment sends us.
Right.
Even something as simple as
Mm-hmm.
having fresh flowers on your desk or listening
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
calming music can make a difference.
For sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that can make a difference,
Yeah.
let's just circle back to visualization.
Okay.
We talked about the science behind it, but
Yeah.
do you have any tips for actually making that a regular practice?
Oh, for sure. So one thing that's been really helpful for me
Yeah.
is to tie visualization to an existing habit.
Okay.
So for example, I visualize my goals for the day while I'm brushing my teeth each morning.
Oh, so like build it into your routine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Make it a non-negotiable part of your day.
I like that.
And don't limit yourself to just like visual imagery.
Right.
Engage all of your senses. Like, what does success sound like? What does it feel like? Even, smell like?
Yeah.
The more vividly you can create that experience in your mind,
Right.
the more impactful it becomes.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, yeah.
So now let's talk about those inevitable moments of setback.
Right.
We talked about, embracing failure as part of growth.
Yeah.
But how do you actually like pick yourself up and keep going
Right.
when it feels like you've just been like totally knocked down?
And that's where having a strong why
Right.
becomes absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Because when you're deeply connected to your purpose, those setbacks become less about personal failure
Right.
and more about course correction.
It's less like I'm a failure and more like, okay, this
So-
approach didn't work. What can I learn from it? And how can I adjust?
And I think sometimes it's just about giving yourself permission
Mm-hmm.
to feel those difficult emotions.
Right.
Disappointment, frustration.
Right.
Those are natural responses to setbacks.
Yeah.
It's important to acknowledge them rather than trying to suppress them.
It's like acknowledging the injury before you can start the healing process, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't underestimate the power of your support network in those moments either.
Yeah.
Talk to a friend, talk to a mentor,
Yeah.
talk to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just voicing those feelings
Yeah.
and getting an outside perspective
Right.
can really help you to reframe the situation
For sure.
and find a way forward.
It's like that reminder that you don't have to go through it alone.
Right.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up part 2
I'll
of
check
this
in.
deep dive.
Yeah.
But we still got one more part to go.
That's right.
So stay tuned for part 3 where we'll talk about overcoming procrastination, staying focused,
Yeah.
and maintaining that momentum over the long haul.
Can't wait.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive. And we've talked about a lot of great strategies for staying motivated.
Yeah, we have setting goals, finding your why, building discipline, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but even with all that in place, I think we all face those moments where, procrastination creeps in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or our focus just starts to like totally waver.
Just the human experience, right?
Yeah.
Even with the best intentions, we're not immune to those distractions.
Speaking of distractions, let's talk about procrastination. It's
Yeah.
like this universal struggle that affects everyone,
Right.
regardless of their level of achievement.
I think procrastination often stems from fear.
Yeah, fear of failure, fear of success.
Yeah, or even fear of judgment,
Yeah, it's like our brains are trying to protect us from discomfort, but in the process,
Right.
we end up creating more stress and anxiety in the long run.
Exactly. We avoid the task,
Yeah.
hoping that discomfort will go away, but it usually just intensifies.
It always comes back to bite you. So how do we actually break free from this procrastination trap?
Well, one technique that's helped me is the 2-minute rule.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete,
Yeah.
just do it right away.
Do it now.
Yeah. Get it off your plate.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It prevents those small tasks from piling up and becoming like this huge, overwhelming monster.
Exactly. And for larger tasks, those ones that take more than 2 minutes,
Right.
break them down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier with goal setting.
Right. It's the same concept.
It's all about making those big, daunting tasks feel less intimidating.
Exactly. And sometimes we procrastinate because we just lack clarity
Mm-hmm.
or direction. If we don't know where to start or what steps to take.
Yeah, you're just paralyzed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about creating that roadmap for ourselves, breaking it down into smaller milestones.
Okay, I like that. And don't forget about accountability, too.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Find someone you trust, a friend, a colleague, a mentor, and share your goals with them.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much of a difference that can make.
It really is. Having someone to check in with
Yeah.
can provide that extra push, to stay on track.
It's like having a built-in cheerleader
Exactly.
who's there to celebrate your wins and help you navigate those setbacks.
And sometimes you just need someone to listen.
Absolutely. Just to vent and process those feelings.
And then, of course, don't forget about self-compassion.
Oh, that's so important.
We all have days where we procrastinate or fall short of our goals.
Of course, we're human.
Exactly. So instead of beating ourselves up,
Right.
let's acknowledge those slip-ups, learn from them, and get back on track.
It's all about progress, not perfection.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so we talked about procrastination, but what about staying focused? It's like we're constantly bombarded with distractions these days.
It's true. Our attention is pulled in so many different directions.
Social media, emails, text messages, the news.
Yeah, it's never ending.
It's like a constant battle for our attention.
One strategy I've found helpful is to schedule dedicated blocks of time for focused work.
So instead of just reacting to whatever pops up,
Yeah,
it's about being proactive and creating a structure for your day.
exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Mhm.
And then during those focused work blocks,
Yeah.
what are some tips for actually like minimizing those distractions?
Well, the first thing is to eliminate as many external distractions as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So turn off your phone notifications,
Okay.
close any unnecessary tabs on your computer.
Right. Create a quiet workspace if you can.
Yeah, exactly. It's about creating an environment that supports your productivity.
And some people like to listen to music or white noise while they work.
While others prefer silence.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person.
Yeah, it's about finding what works best for you.
Exactly. And don't forget to take breaks, too.
Oh, yeah, breaks are important.
Our brains need time to rest and recharge.
It seems counterintuitive,
It does.
but stepping away from your work for a few minutes
Mhm.
can actually boost your creativity and focus when you come back to it.
Exactly.
Mm.
So get up, stretch, walk around, or just look away from your screen for a few moments.
Those short breaks can make a world of difference.
They really can.
Okay, so now for the million-dollar question.
Okay.
How do we maintain momentum over the long haul? You know, it's easy to feel inspired and energized at the beginning, but how do we keep that drive going over time?
I think one key is to constantly remind ourselves of our why. Why are we pursuing these goals in the first place?
Right, tapping into that deeper purpose.
Yeah, because that can really fuel our motivation even when things get tough.
And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Oh, yes. Celebrating those wins is so important.
Every step forward, no matter how small,
Mm-hmm.
deserves to be acknowledged.
It does. It helps to keep us motivated and feeling good about the progress we're making.
And sometimes our goals might need to change,
Oh, for sure.
right? As we grow and evolve, our goals might need to shift too.
Absolutely. Life is constantly changing, and our goals should reflect that.
So it's about being flexible, adaptable,
Mm-hmm.
open to new possibilities.
Exactly. And it's also about remembering that you're not alone on this journey.
Right. We're all in this together.
We all face challenges and setbacks along the way.
But by embracing those secrets we've discussed today,
Mhm.
setting clear goals, cultivating discipline, finding our why, surrounding ourselves with positive influences,
All of those things can make such a big difference.
we can overcome those obstacles and achieve amazing things.
Absolutely.
This has been an amazing deep dive
It really has.
into the world of high achievers.
Yeah, I've learned a lot.
Me too. And I hope our listener out there feels empowered to apply these strategies to their own lives.
I hope so too.
Remember, you have the potential to achieve anything you set your mind to.
You just have to believe in yourself and take those first steps.
That's the key. Well, thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep striving, keep learning, and keep growing.